Because we're live. So hopefully this time we're live.
Well, we're live today, I guess.
Well, we'll wait and see. This time if your phone rings off the hook, check it and see.
If you're live, if it's there.
Yeah, like last week when 9,000 people texted you and you never figured out they were saying, hey, you're not on.
No, it was on here, but I couldn't read it.
Oh, your phone was still blowing up too. I guarantee it was. It was telling you that you weren't on here live. Guaranteed. Not a doubt in my mind.
I was looking at that thing and I can't see nothing.
I know, but your phone was going off too, is what I'm saying.
I don't think so.
Like every 5 seconds for 20 minutes.
I guess we'd have to look at the video replay, just like in the Major League Baseball. But would that be an extra timeout, or you get so many looks of what it is, of whether you looked or not, or stuff? You know the deal.
70QQ, audio and video is good. We are on. Dave's channel made his way back. Frank made his way back.
Where'd he
last week was at a ski resort in Catskill with my 4 pickles.
With four pickleball asses, huh?
Gregory Mala in green in the house. Big George in green in the house.
We
the
need,
real learning tree.
We need some green, baby. Need some green.
George Jetson in the house from outer space. Italian in the house. Patrick Young in the house. Ready for class. T Weasel, the ultimate fan, super fan. T Weasel, Coach T Weasel in the house today. Says in the hose today. Good spell check there, T Weasel. Coach Weasel. Audio guys, 70QQ.
You think the Weasel ever going to be a member?
No.
No?
Hell no.
No.
A lot of King Carl sightings lately. Where you been at? You been at the Legion or the Eagles or the VFW? Where you been, Weasel?
I thought the Weasel just sits at that one place, that bar going at it like out of town on Highway 50. And the Weasel just sits there being the Weasel.
I don't think so. He's got to see. My dad doesn't just sit out in the highway, so I don't. Unless you mean he sees him driving by. Bar hopping. All right, let's sell a T-shirt today. Who wants a T-shirt? We got Rip Rogers T-shirts, ProWrestlingTees.com.
Let's sell 20 T-shirts.
20 T-shirts
today.
today.
20 T-shirts today. Maybe Manny the Weasel will buy 20.
We got Rip's old book and Rip's new book, which look exactly the same.
Well,
don't get confused.
Yeah, it's got the thing on there. I said, well, that's stupid.
There's the old book. You can get the new book. It's got a gold stamp on it.
Yeah, it's a gold stamp.
So you're paying more money for that gold stamp. It's real gold, they say.
Yeah, but you got 50 extra pages of stories.
Why'd you get 2 books with the same cover, Rip?
I guess the person that made it to me and fixed it all up for free, I guess he decided to do that.
Thanks, Timmy Baltimore, for last week hosting. Limpin' Ain't Easy debuted. I saw Wednesday. I saw him and Hollywood, Haley J on there for his kickoff interview. That was pretty cool. If you haven't seen it, go check out Limpin' Ain't Easy on YouTube with the infamous or famous, one of the two, Timmy Baltimore.
I bet Timmy had a little bit of blood down there when he was interviewing her.
Maybe.
Huh? I hope so. Shows he ain't
He's
dead.
male.
Yeah.
If you want to donate to Rip Rogers directly, we got the PayPal.
Yeah.
CoachB40@yahoo.com. PayPal, CoachB40@yahoo.com. That'll all go to Rip Rogers. And then also, shit, I didn't do it yet. I got to do it before he leaves. I got to show Rip how to tag Tony Khan so he can actually send a tweet that Tony Khan sees. That would help all these tweets so Tony actually sees them. But there you go. There's Rip Rogers' number for Tony Khan if anybody knows Tony personally.
Yeah, send that number to Tony.
That's because you don't tag him when you tweet.
It says, we'll work for food, Tony. We'll work for food, Tony. Okay. I don't know how to type it.
I've showed you about 10 times how to do it.
Okay.
Get your phone out here right now. We're going to show you right here on the air. Where's it at?
On the ground.
All right. Get that son of a bitch out here. Big George, gonna start us off with a super chat. I don't have my contacts in. What's that say? You're gonna have to start reading these.
Have you gotten mad at an opponent? Opponent spelled wrong, George. Okay. Partner or manager after a match and cool whatever them. God, you are allowed to proofread.
Hey, I'm paying you money, Rip.
I know. $4.99.
Oh yeah, you don't need to. Have you ever gotten mad at an opponent, partner or manager after a match?
Oh, I probably did I used to do it all the time, but in my old age, no matter what, get mad if it's perfect, whatever. Thank you very much. Get in, get out. Don't get hurt. Let's not do this over here. No, let's do it on TV. Then we won't have to do it anymore. They already know the threats there. But a lot of different things. But I get mad at an opponent. Nah, a lot of times they're just not very good. Just like when I was a shits when I started out. Guys would ask me to do stuff, and I'd tell them I couldn't do it, so they'd have to change. But that's rather the heels. They're the leaders in the ring, and when you're the heel, you just know what to do. That's why you're a heel. At least you're supposed to be. But I get mad at a partner. Nah, well, if a partner's lazy or something, or if he's doing something dangerous, I said, well, you don't need to do that dangerous shit here. There ain't no more people coming in. You're going to make this much money, so don't be doing that dangerous shit, you know.
So look, I got a tweet. I'm going to teach Rip how to tag Tony Khan right here live on the air.
Oh, this ought to be.
It says, hey, right? Now
yeah.
you go to this @ sign. See that little @ symbol?
Yeah.
Hit that.
Uh-huh.
Now go TON. Look who pops right up. Well, let me go TON.
Tom Pritchard?
Oh. TO. I put TO. Who's first?
Tony Khan, baby.
You know, you hit it. Now he can see this message.
Holy shit. Now, oh, God.
This is Rip Rogers. What do you want me to say now?
Give me a job. I need a job. I'm overqualified.
I would, WUD. Love, LUV.
I would love to work for you.
To work for AEW.
AEW.
Look at that. See how that? See, look, @ Tony. All you gotta do is hit the @ button. TO. Tony Khan pops up. Press him. Now this goes, and he gets mentioned, so he'll get a notification that somebody just tagged him in a tweet.
Okay.
That's way better than what you keep doing when he'll never see those tweets that you keep putting out there.
Well, I did put up will work for food. You know, I eat a lot. You know, I was just checking.
We got a new member, Stephen Allen, Guido or Vito. Sorry, dude, Vito Andretti, new member of the show, man.
It's about time. He's been pouncing off me for how long now?
Thanks, Vito. What Rip meant to say.
Thank you, Stephen Allen. I just talked to him yesterday. Yeah, he knows he's over.
All right, City Science Legion, Seymour High School basketball, VFW, all the places I mentioned, where I was dominating my opponents on the poker table.
I thought he was in a slump. He told me.
Well,
Weasel told me he was in a slump and he wasn't winning anymore. He's slumping with the women. He's slumping with the cards he's playing on. He's really not prime Weasel. All he is Mr. Enthusiasm, Mr. Positivity on the coaching.
All right, you got to read these questions.
Okay, are you glad you weren't killed by a punch from Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin? Well, hell, if I'd have known that, I could have had him hit me, and then I could already be croaked. I wouldn't have to be on here. But then again, you wouldn't get to hear me. You wouldn't get to see what the Weasel's talking about or ever. But are you glad about? Well,
you just read it.
Yeah.
Are you glad you didn't croak from the punch?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was living life better, and life was good, and I wasn't so old and defenseless and stupid. I was at least I was younger, looked a little bit more attractive, and drew a lot of heavy women. So what can you say?
There, I'm right there. Can you read this?
Did you get pissed off at me for kicking out of Dizzy's? I don't know what Dizzy's German is. I don't know what Dizzy is.
Dizzy, a wrestler? German suplex, I would imagine.
I don't know. If it's
Vito did it.
I don't know if it's just somebody's. If that's their big finish, but then again, if you ain't on TV, it don't matter anyway. Rip Rogers, did you ever meet Baby Doll? Yeah, I met Baby Doll. Do I think old school foreign object could work in today's wrestling if used properly? My God, that's the easiest thing to do. And nobody else does old stuff. So anything old today is new. Oh, the whole thing is you go out there and you have one gimmick in your boot, your trunk, the whole time. Everybody sees it except the goddamn referee. And all you need to do is use it one time for the finish or a little thing and just be getting them with it. And eventually the baby face gets it back from you. This is Von Litus's official gimmick right here. And he gets it back and beats the shit out of you with it. But that's what wrestling is. Good versus evil. The bad guy's always cheating. He's got a foreign object. He's got a little whatever it is.
You guys have sweat. Try that today. That'd be so awesome.
It's so
hiding a foreign object in their tights.
Yeah,
Nobody
I mean,
ever does it.
You got a 20-minute segment with that, and people are just screaming. You don't have to do anything. And then whoever hits them, if you hit them with it, then you beat them, and then they're madder than shit.
You skipped one, Rip. Got them right there at the top for you.
No.
We got to read it.
Shane Park says, you got any Ken Tim stories? Not really. No. Yeah, baby, Stephen Key says. I just
What does
asked.
GTSY stand for?
I don't know.
Well, I'm asking them.
I don't know.
I don't know what GTSY stands for.
Dave's channel, Shane Park says GTSY, sir. I have no idea what that means. I don't know what all these abbreviations are or whatever.
Plowboy Frazier stories. Todd Alexander.
I like Plowboy Frazier he'd be working for Memphis or whatever. And this big, huge guy with his feet sticking out, if he had a mask on, no matter what he had on, you knew it was Plowboy Frazier because only Plowboy Frazier walked that way. So every fan, everybody on TV, no matter who the new guy was, under the hood, with a different mask on, completely covered body and whatever, you just knew. And the fans just say, "Oh, that's Tiny Frazier. That's Plowboy Frazier." He couldn't disguise what he was.
Tyon says, any run-ins with Dick Slater.
No, he says Dick Salter.
Well, Dick Slater, I'm sure, is who he means.
What? Hey, when you're doing a question, you are allowed to proofread it and spell things right. Any runs in with Dick Slater. The most I did was was Dick Slater. I was running a show somewhere when I was doing developmental towns for Ole Anderson and WCW, and he was working, and he come and got a draw for me. I said, Dickie, I'm quite honored to get to give you a draw. Let me give it to you right now. Just sign for it. And I want you to know that you do Terry Funk better than Terry Funk does Terry Funk. Or maybe Terry's doing Dick Slater. But Dick Slater, who was a teammate with Mike Graham in high school on the high school wrestling team, and was a confirmed badass. And he was the guy that put Sting's head in the toilet give him the swirly or whatever, because Dark Journey was his Dick Slater's girlfriend, and all she wanted to do was a ride to the town. So Dick got mad, went over to the babyface thing, and poor Sting didn't know what was doing. Here he was, a nice guy, giving the girl who needed a ride to the town. But that's just another day in the life of the legendary Dick Slater. Whether it's getting a draw for me, putting Sting's head in the toilet, just being himself, where he sounds more like Terry Funk than Terry Funk does. But what the hell, right?
Ever wrestled PN News, Rip?
Yeah, I wrestled PN News in Germany. Wasn't my cup of tea. It was totally different, but I was doing an effeminate gimmick, so basically it hurt his character. So no matter what he did, I would go up towards his bullocks, towards his anal sphincter canal, or just stroke him gently, and it wasn't any fun for my opponent. So no matter who I worked with, I was always going to have a good time, and I wasn't going to get hurt. I was going to almost come into the ring with a sign, guaranteed no violence in this match or your money back.
Big George sent a $2.99 super sticker, followed it up with a question. Did you work out with Cody Rhodes or CM Punk in training?
Oh, no, I've been fired twice from the big boy class when they came in, and I was teaching the non-contract guys, and those were the guys that 70 of them got jobs with WWE when I was teaching them at OVW. Vaughn Lilas was there at the time, but that was like Serena Deeb, who was a coach at the Performance Center. Santino, Armando Estrada, Johnny Jeter, Mike Mondo, the Spirit Squad. So a whole bunch of guys got jobs. 70 guys got jobs with WWE that went through the beginners class at OVW when I was there. And but I would be what do they call it? I would yell, scream, call girls names and stuff like that, and they didn't like that. But I just wanted to get you good, because as soon as you made it to the big time, you was going to be hated, because somebody's going to be jealous of you and try and get rid of your ass, and you had to be able, you got to be used to that stuff.
Sunview might be a new listener here. Welcome, Sunview. There's recently been some ICW footage from 1981 uploaded that aired in Puerto Rico with Spanish commentary. Do you know what the story is about?
No, don't have a clue. I know we used to have a tape in Puerto Rico, just like we used to have a tape in San Francisco, some in Miami, 13 other TV markets that we would have, and a lot of TV stations, they were paying us money to air their tape. Like our tape aired in San Francisco, which used to be Roy Shire's territory, and was a great territory years ago. Let me see, ICW footage. Yeah, we had the tape in Puerto Rico too. They were paying us. We had a TV station in Mobile actually paying us. Then I'd deliver the tapes. What was funny was when the bus would go on strike or whatever. So I'd either Miser, which was Angelo Poffo, or me in my little Pinto, we would be driving all the tapes around, like Beckley, West Virginia, like Johnson City, Tennessee, like Hazard, Kentucky, like Louisville, Lexington, Evansville, Memphis, 4 of them, Milwaukee, four TV stations in Ohio. I'd be going, take off, boom, drop them off, 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 drop them off. About 24 hours later, I'd get back. And why'd I do it? Well, hell, Angelo was doing it at the time. He was 58 years old. So if he could do it, I sure as hell could do it, because Randy wasn't going to do it. He's too busy being the boss.
Who's your favorite tag team partner?
let's see, who was my favorite tag team partner? Let me see. I think it was Von Lilas, and he was just
You
like,
never tagged.
no, but you was always there as my manager because as a manager, you were the man that always looked at me because you always had a hidden gimmick in your tights, in your trunks, and you'd always look left, look right. Then you'd look under the ring like you was Paul Heyman going to pull something out. Then you'd sneakily hand that foreign object to me. Then we would play hide the sausage with that for 15 minutes. Then we'd use it one time. And the reason we'd win that match is because you took care of me. You knew I was older. You knew I was stupid. Huh? You're not?
I'm
No.
not even on the show.
Oh, you're not where your arm is. The big arm's on there. But anyway,
I'm trying to get out of here. You keep bringing me into it.
well, here's the official gimmick right here that Von Lilas was giving me. And he was my best tag team partner because a lot of guys would turn on me all the time just because I was a smart aleck or whatever, or I ribbed them a little bit. So I was always having partners turn on me. I couldn't keep a tag team partner and I couldn't keep a woman. But anyway, the foreign object right here is the bond that holds guys together. When the chips were down, whether it be a manager, a green guy breaking in or whatever, whoever handed me this gimmick right here, he's the guy that I wanted in my corner. That's all there is to it.
All right, two things. One, we never tagged, and two, I've never seen a partner turn on Rip. So I don't know what he's talking about on those answers.
I'm talking about where I wrestled all over the world.
Name one partner who's turned on you.
Ted Oates, he turned on me.
He
but
did not. When? Where at? I would have seen that on TV.
No, it was in a house show.
No, shit.
Oh, okay.
You're the one that always turned on people. Why Ted Oates turn on you?
I really think he was jealous because I was hot, was what it was. Oh, Buddy Rose, as a rib, he turned on me. And then the next time I turned on him, so they didn't know who to cheer for. Rip, have you ever been to Boogie's Jimmy Valiant's Museum of Virginia? Are you? Have you been friends with Boogie Wiggy? Well, I've never been to Boogie's museum in Virginia, but I've been friends with Jimmy since I got in the wrestling business. Used to drive him around. I was official driving Jimmy from working for Bruiser in Indianapolis. We go to Louisville and work for Jarrett's. Then we'd spend the night in Louisville and drive to Evansville the next day. And every once in a while, I get tired because I wasn't used to the driving. So Jimmy, he would all of a sudden, my little Pinto would be going. But the thing is, I've known Jimmy a long time. He said the only thing was bad about Marcus. He got a potty mouth. Do I have a potty mouth? Yes, I do have a potty mouth. And I'm always going to keep that potty mouth, I think. I learned to cuss from Randy Savage and Ole Anderson. And they were cussing all the time and they didn't even realize it. So I'm cussing all the time, so I don't even realize it. So anyway. Boogie, good guy, handsome Jimmy. As remember, I was a member of the Handsome Jimmy Valiant fan club. It didn't get any better than that.
What else we got?
It asked about your height and weight, or do you legit 6'5"? At the time you were.
Not anymore. I've shrunk.
Well, hell, I used to be 5'10" and a half in the prime of life. I'm probably 5'9", if that now.
Did you ever wrestle Too Cold Scorpio?
Yeah, I wrestled Scorpio somewhere, but I can't remember where it was. I know he was great. He was good. He was a real fighter, too. He was funnier than shit.
Was Frankie Kane an influence of yours?
Well, George, you know Frankie Kane was an influence of me because he's the guy that gave me the name Rip Rogers, and he gave me the name Rip Rogers in 1979 working for George and Gil Calkin in Mississippi because I reminded them of Eddie Graham, and Eddie Graham was the first Rip Rogers. So going back with that, Frankie was a tough guy. He was the carnival wrestler, and he would actually fight the marks and everything. I'm glad I wasn't as tough as Frankie, because I'd been one of them guys working at the Jackson County Fair challenging the fans, and they come in and beat my ass. I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Hillbilly Pals in Pikeville. Any stories on that place?
Well, I used to wrestle in Pikeville every Monday night, but the place at that time was called Marlowe's Country Palace, and it had the low ceiling. So if you took a backdrop, your feet would hit the things in the roof, and they'd fall down and everything. But we also, and that was called Marlowe's Country Palace with the great Marlowe Tackett. He had a band there, and he was the owner. And he also had another building on the other side of Pikeville, and you get a completely different audience, because these were the mountain folk. But that was called Marlowe's Other Place. So we had Marlowe's Country Palace on Mondays and Marlowe's Other Place on Thursdays. So I would usually have two separate cards. So of course, the diehard female rats, they would go to both shows. And they were cool, because they had strict orders to wear different clothes from Marlowe's Country Palace to Marlowe's Other Place. But there was a lot of shit happening in Eastern Kentucky.
Got the big super chat in here. John Tucker, welcome. In green and super chatting. Appreciate that, man.
Oh, who stuffed their trunk? Is there an art to it? Well, I'm trying to think who didn't. That's right. Who didn't stuff their trunks? A lot of times it was the rolled up wash rag. That was good. Sometimes we would actually put a soft, flaccid, phallus, plastic, whatever you want to call it, down there. I remember with Adrian Street, I did that, and he did a gimmick where he pulled my pants down. He pulled the toy. He pulled the toy out of my pants, and he showed everybody that he walked around the ring, going to each side, explaining to every girl, male, female, whatever, that my worm was not big. Then he hit me with my own object and beat me. So not only did he exposed my secret, he threatened that I had a little worm. He pulled out the big thing, hit me with it, and knocked me out. So anyway.
You're the man, John Tucker. Did you wrestle in the Mid-South Coliseum?
Oh, I wrestled in the Mid-South Coliseum when I was working for Memphis. So that was great to see. That's the great thing on your bucket list. When you say, what'd you do? Yeah, I worked Superdome shows for Watts, worked the main event in the Omni in Atlanta against Tommy Rich, been all over the world, worked at these different places and stuff. And when you look back, you're going, damn, yeah, I went to a lot of places there. That was fun. But when you're doing it, it's just another day at the office. You don't really, you get into town, you get undressed, you start training in the dressing room. You get your instructions, you have your match, and the trip all the way there, you're bullshitting with the boys. The shit's on the way home. And when you're going home on the way home, the trip is always shorter, because you're having so much telling stories about what girl was with this, or what guy was with what guy. That's like, and I remember I was booking Kansas City for Geigel, and the referee, I had, let's just say it had three guys that like guys. One was the referee, one was an announcer, and another guy was a performer. And they was all trying to pick up the same chicken boy. So the announcer was just like looking up at the other guy, and the referee was pointing to like, that's his boyfriend, to leave him alone. So You never know what's going to happen in the world of professional wrestling. So we've come a long way from Adrian Street pulling the gimmick out of my tights and hitting me with it to beat me. But anyway, you're the guys asking these questions, so I'm just trying to tell you what I know. Frank's Frank's pickle barrel ass. Okay, Frank, peace, love. Frank's that $10 baby. Let's see. Get a cheap hooker or some Taco Bell. Did I know Judy Poffo? Of course that I knew Judy Poffo. Judy was Lanny and Randy's mother, was Angelo's wife. She was actually the listed promoter when we ran towns in Illinois because wrestlers weren't allowed to have promoter's license. Once a month, I would go over to her and the Miser's house, which was 2 houses down from me and Randy's in Lexington, and she would bleach my hair. She would give me a haircut. If my beard needed trimming, she would do all that. So she was somehow she was the secretary. She did all the work. She did the cooking. If my stuff needed sewing, she'd sew stuff up. If my stuff needed wash, she'd throw it in the washer and dryer. She was just perfect. But she was awesome. She knew wrestling better than most of the underneath guys by just from hanging around and being the wife of a wrestler.
Thanks, Frank. You're the man. What else we got?
Need some questions, baby.
We got some, but I skipped down to the super chats.
Okay.
Memories of being the chauffeur for Valiant.
Yeah.
Were you his chauffeur?
Yeah, I was his chauffeur. I just say I was his chauffeur because what he would do, he was married to Big Mama.
Camera right there.
He was married to Big Mama at the time. This was after Claire. So he would come by Hoffmeister's gym and Big Mama she'd have the lip lock on Handsome Jimmy. He'd come on in, do his one set of every exercise, whether it was presses like this or semi little bit of curls, threaten to do some legs and stuff. He'd come in, take the shower, never had underwear on, had the cowboy boots on, the flared jeans, the necklace, and then the Handsome Jimmy sweater on. Then that's when we'd make the town. That's when we go to, as Jimmy would say, Louisville. And then we'd stop down at my mom's and he'd usually eat something. And the good thing about my mom, she was so nice, and she'd be saying, "More coffee, Handsome Jimmy." And Jimmy would say, "That's right. Okay, Arn, just half a cup. Jimmy would always, when it was junk food, he'd take one bite and that'd be it.
Any stories on the Dream Machine, Tony Graham?
Troy Graham. Yeah, Troy Graham.
Sorry.
Okay, I was with Troy Graham in Mississippi. And Troy imitated Dusty Rhodes. He imitated Dusty Rhodes so good. And he was the Dream Machine. That was Troy Graham. He was Troy T. Tyler. He was, I don't know, 5 or 6, and he always just loved his Memphis wrestling. And he would always train when he'd get back from the towns at night instead of going to the gym. But he could tell some of the greatest stories. And the good thing about it is the next night it'd be the same story, it'd be a little bit different. So he had a little bit of Dustyism in there. But Troy Graham, he was great. Dream Machine, he had a great run. Whether he was Troy T. Tyler or whatever, he had about 4 or 5 different names. But he was from Memphis. He worked as a bouncer. He'd always worked for Jarrett's. He loved his Memphis wrestling. He was a hell of a guy. Troy Graham, Troy T. Tyler.
Which wrestlers did the best Dusty Rhodes imitation?
I have to say it was Troy. he had Dusty down to the T, and this was before VCRs or any kind of things where you could, before cable TV and stuff, but he had Dusty down to the T. He was just so good. So he had the walk down, he had the mannerisms down, he had the voice down, baby. He could imitate the Dream. He was sort of like Virgil Riley Reynolds Jr. Virgil Riley Reynolds Jr. And I don't know if Virgil Riley Reynolds Jr. got that from working for Dory Funk Sr., where all the greats come out of, whether it was Stan Hansen, whether it was Bruiser Brody, whether it was Ted DiBiase, whether it was Tully Blanchard, whether it was Tito Santana, whether it was Big Bad Bobby Duncan, but a whole lot of players. They all come out of the old Amarillo territory run by Dory Funk Sr. And I think Dusty learned most of that there because Dory Funk Sr., who was Dory Funk's father and Terry Funk's father, and he run all that out of the Amarillo territory. And I think Dusty was just surrounded by all this great talent, and took it all in, became the superstar that he was then, is today, and now he's one of the greatest of all time.
Hey, we just got a PayPal, $10 from Patrick Young. PayPal came in.
It don't get any better than that.
Or I think I said, or Cash App, whatever, Cash App. I didn't even put my Cash App up there. Found me anyway, I guess. Patrick Young, $10 Cash App. That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Give you a hand. Peace, love. Thank you, Patrick, very much.
Shane Parps in green says, ever wrestle Rick Martel?
Oh, my God. Rick Martel was a dream. This guy was so good, and he was ambidextrous, too. But I locked up with him, and he looked, well, he was a second-generation wrestler, too, from Montreal, and he was just a great – the only thing he couldn't do was speak English. His English, well, then again, he could speak better English than I could speak French. The only thing I know is "Allô, bébé, je te manque." So that's all I know in French. But Rick was light as a feather. He was so athletic. He loved to train. And him and Piper lived together because Rick was a clean freak and Pipes was, I think he was even messier than me. Pipe was a hell of a guy. But anyway, no, Rick Martel, I was with him in working for Don Owen in Portland. And then him and Piper had the big bachelor pad at the time. So anyway, Rick Martel was great. No knocks on him. He had the big, I think he had a Trans Am at the time. And him and Piper, they were like Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside, but they were totally opposites, but they was a great pair together.
Big George, $1.99 super chat. What do you think of John Cena's heel turn?
I think John Cena's heel turn was great. I watched it a couple times, and I don't know why they had them other people in the ring. If they had just The Rock in there with just John Cena and Cody, it would have been complete. But
they had that rapper in there.
Yeah, why?
No idea. Because
why?
He was a Rock's boy, I guess, or something.
I didn't know what the deal was, but that's when Cody got all beat up and everything, really, from that rap guy hitting him or something like that. But anyway, the whole thing is, if it draws numbers, if they make a whole lot of money out of it, and Cody's going to get all these main events out of it, I'm thinking he's going to be. He ain't going to care about the potatoes he got, about getting knocked in the head, about getting black eyes and stuff. And I think he's going to have a great run with it. I think Cena's just a great company man because he could have been, as Pez Whatley would say, the goody two-shoes white boy his whole career. But here he is, been the icon of babyfaceism all these years, and all of a sudden he's going to give back to the company. The company's going to make more money. Of course, John's going to make all that money too, but he's already rich and he's already a movie star.
Was he really going to go out as a heel though?
I'm thinking they'll do something on some kind of last thing. it'll turn it all back around, and then they'll be on his last night in wherever it is. They'll be cheering him the whole time because he's been in shape the whole time, working hard the whole time, doing the things for the kids the whole time, with this and that, and really not much dirt on John Cena. Whereas, God, my God, just think if I was there or something like that, I'd be the human dirt ball, just doing everything wrong just to do it. But anyway, John Cena, great talent.
$5 super chat. Stephen Allen, Vito Andretti. Any memories of my namesake, Steve Allen, calling wrestling out of Chicago? Or was that before your time?
No, it wasn't Steve Allen. It was Mel Allen. Mel Allen, wasn't it?
Mel Allen, wasn't he a baseball announcer?
Yeah. Well, Steve Allen, I don't know. I just remember wrestling from Chicago, which is on in the 50s. And that's Dick the Bruiser was on there, and that's for Angelo Poffo. They would wrestle. They was on the Dumont network, and it was on like nationwide TV some way. But that's like Angelo Poffo. He was in the TV was out of Chicago, but he would fly out and work like in Los Angeles and San Francisco because he was one of the world's. He got a break on there. And he became a nationwide superstar. So he was flying in for all the other promoters. So that was nothing but good for him. And the old referee from Dallas, Bronco Lubitsch, Bronco was Angelo Poffo's manager at that time. So Bronco Lubitsch was a big star. So, and then he homesteaded pretty much in Dallas as the referee. But Bronco Lubitsch and Angelo Poffo, those were household names in the wrestling world in the 1950s from the great Dumont network.
Well, it says here, Steve Allen.
Yeah, that's him.
He did wrestling.
Okay, it's Steve Allen. Yeah, okay.
So he was.
I keep thinking Mel Allen because I hear his voice.
No, did like This Week in Baseball.
No, yeah, okay, but yeah, that was him.
So you do remember Steve?
Yeah, yeah. He was doing the voiceovers.
Yeah.
If I get 1 out of 10 of these right, I'm doing pretty good. Most of no notes, just memory.
Thanks, Vito. Whatever happened to Tom Zupanzik?
Zupo, he owns after his first of all, when the Colts came to town, Tom Zupanzik just walked into Jim Irsay's office, who was the owner of the Colts. Walked in, said, "Here's my resume. I'm your new strength coach." And Irsay looked at Zupo and he said, "Well, I guess you are." So Tom Zupanzik, he was strength coach for the Colts for I don't know how many years. And then after that, he was the director of business development for years and years and years. Now he's retired. I talked to him via text a couple of weeks ago, and he was doing something with his granddaughter. He was going out of the state and was supposed to be back the 24th of February. So I guess he is back since I'm Mr. Knowing what date on the calendar it is. But Tom Zupanzik, he was an Olympian. He was a member of the 1980 Olympic team, Greco-Roman super heavyweight wrestler. And he did that, and he used to hold the world neck lift record. And he would do strength exhibitions where guys would come out of the audience and try and choke him. They'd be trying to choke Zupo, and he'd just go, and their hands would just pop off of him. So in his prime, Zupo was about 6'3.5", about 200 or 338 pounds, could bench press 505 for 10 at Hofmeister's gym, just totally strong. And he said the only guy he was ever scared of was his dad, Gus Zupanzik, who was like a welding teacher at one of the high schools in Indianapolis. I'm trying to think of what it is, but I can't think right now. But Zupo was scared of him. He says, "No, my dad worked, and he had those big, fat hands, and I could shake hands with him, and he'd put me down because he did real work." But anyway, Tom Zupanzik, director of business development, retired from the Colts. Nice guy. strong guy. You don't want to mess with Zupo. And he'd always get mad at me because I'd call him Poopo. But anyway, Tom Zupan.
So when I wrestled my last match, I think that was my last match against the Outrunners. I put them on the map. That's why they're going to win the AEW tag team titles this Sunday against the Hurt Syndicate. All because of that match with Von Lilas. That was, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. Don't really know for sure, but I believe that was my last match, I think. No, we might have went to Tennessee after that, but that was pretty close, if not.
Hit him with the big chop. Turbo and Floyd, they felt the wrath of Von Lilas.
Taliano also wants to know about Buff Bagwell. Any Buff Bagwell stories?
Buff Bagwell stories. Well, I was in with Buff in 1991 in Global, and he was the handsome stranger. He would have a little Lone Ranger mask on, like you didn't know who he was, but nobody knew who Buff Bagwell was anyway at that time. So he got his exposure there, and then with his exposure there, he come into WCW, and guess who he had his tryout with? He had his tryout match with me. So I knew exactly what Buff, I played to all of his strengths. Anything that he couldn't do, we didn't let him see that, and he signed a contract from there. So, in fact, I think you're right. Buff should have been kicking money back to me the whole time because I helped him get that great job at WCW.
Yeah, if you remember, we tried to get him on our show, and we saw him at the convention, and then he said, "Oh, I'd love to do it. I owe Rip so much because he put me over," and blah blah blah. And then he sends me a text that he wanted $300. So there's your Buff Bagwell story. Motherfucker wanted $300 to come on the show after he said how much Rip did for him in the business.
Well, as Randy Savage would say, cannot deny it. Well, Buff's got his own podcast now, and he's made a good living at this stuff. So anyway, met him in Global, helped get him a job. Then he was going to hold me and Von Lilas up for 300 big ones because it had to eat. But anyway.
Patrick Young said, please let me know if I sent you the right cash app. Yes, I did get it. Patrick Young, thank you for the $10.
Okay. Any more questions out there, baby?
I'm getting them.
I'll do my best to answer them. In the meantime, Tony will work for food. You didn't see that? Tony will work for food. I eat a lot, though.
Shane Parks in green. Rip, did you ever wrestle Killer Tim Brooks? I remember him being Piper's tag partner in Oregon.
Yeah, what happened was Brooksy left, and then I came in because Piper used to be roommates with Killer Tim Brooks. And I wish I could have worked with him some because he was a wild and crazy guy, and I could have learned a whole lot from him. Because when I was in Portland, I was learning from everybody there, and I was especially learning from Playboy Buddy Rose. So when I got back from Portland, I was half little Randy Savage and half little Playboy Buddy Rose. And if Killer Tim Brooks would have been there, I would have been a quarter Tim Brooks.
Bazzy Boy in the house. Might be a new listener. Rip, did you ever wrestle Tony Atlas? Buddy Landel.
Wow. Okay. First, I'll do Tony Atlas. I worked with Tony Atlas in the Omni the first time I was working for Championship Wrestling from Georgia with Ole Anderson, and I was working with Tony. And Tony was one of the most gifted athletes, bodybuilding athlete. He was great. He had no ego, and hell, he was just Mr. Muscles, tall, athletic. But I worked with the first time I worked in the Omni, which was a big deal because that's where the Superstation was on big time in the States, in Canada. I don't know if it was worldwide or not because I wasn't going worldwide at that time. But if you worked in Atlanta, if you worked on the Superstation, you knew that. So that's what I was talking about, Tony. And then who was the next guy?
Frank's Picklebarrel in Green's got a question. Rip, saw you in 1980 photo wearing the King's crown. What's up with that?
Okay. Now, I was living in Lexington, Kentucky, and Burger King had a big special. Somehow I went into Burger King and talked them into giving me, they had some real shitty crowns, but they had a real good one in the back with the manager. So I talked with the manager. I BS'd him some, put him over, talked about him on TV, etc. So I had a picture taken. It's on phone or whatever, but it was a great crown, just like Jerry Lawler, like Jerry the King Lawler. So for a while, at least a couple of weeks or whatever, I was King Rip Rogers, just going through, just as a rib, just doing another gimmick, whatever, just continually reinventing myself for later, whenever that might have to happen.
You're like Chris Jericho, just reinventing yourself.
I tell you, Jericho is one of the smartest guys around. That's all I can say.
Frank says, Rip, you remember Bulldog Brown effing in his Cadillac side the shows or something? I don't know what he's talking about.
I don't either. I used to in Kansas City, I made most of the trips with Bulldog Bob Brown. And he was funnier than shit. And Bulldog always worked in Kansas City, where he was pretty much Geigel's top guy or whatever. Bulldog would run the shows a lot of times. But then in the Maritimes, he'd go to the Maritimes every summer. So so that one year I was with Bulldog all in Kansas City, and then we go to the Maritimes. And Bulldog was famous. He always had the nice Cadillac. And I remember sometimes the heels, the fans, because Bulldog was the bad guy, the fans would do some damage to Bulldog's Cadillac, and they said, "Oh, got to take the Cadillac into the shop." But the Bulldog had the white Cadillac, and he had the like maroon Cadillac. But the Bulldog was a legend. Made a lot of trips with the Bulldog. He could tell some great stories. That's Bulldog Bob Brown out of Kansas City and the Maritimes. And I was tight with the Bulldog. We had some good times.
No, Dave, that is not my last match. 2018, no. Ohio, no. I just said, did the Outrunners, work a couple times, Tennessee. No, that OVW match was not my last match. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true.
I thought everything on the internet was true. You mean it's not?
No.
Oh.
Rip, did you ever buy a watch from Plowboy Frazier?
No, but that's right. He had everything. Yeah, Plowboy Frazier, he had everything. And brother, come here. And he was always trying to sell the gimmick watches. Of course, he said they were like new, but they weren't new. And you was asking me about Buddy Landel a while ago. I met William Enser after he had went AWOL from the Army, and he actually lived with me and Randy Savage for a while in Lexington in this building. We was going to fix it up, but it cost too much. It cost like $50,000 in wiring or whatever. So I would be standing there instead of an apartment. Me and Randy was living there. And then when Debbie Combs would come in to visit, she would live there. And then Donna Day, she would come in. And then I was with Donna for a while, but then Buddy Landel come over. So I introduced them together. They hit it off good. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, you'd be hearing, "Buddy, Buddy, where are you?" And Buddy would be hiding. But anyway, that's just another day in the life of Buddy Landel, another day in the life of Rip Rogers, Randy Savage, you name it. I remember driving with Buddy in his car, and he said he was not going to do cocaine anymore. He was going to actually throw it out right there. So he pulled this bag of, I think it was flour or something, and threw it out the window. And then I caught his hand, and I pulled his pants down a little bit. And there was the real stuff. So I grabbed it. And Buddy said, no, not that one. So in other words, he tried to fool me. So William Inser, the great Buddy Landel, he didn't fool me. I caught Buddy. So that's it. He didn't fool me.
Big George wants to know who you choose, Moolah or Mae Young?
Wow. Well, if I was going to make money, Mae Young did everything the right way, but Moolah was the boss. And when Moolah's the boss, I'd rather been Moolah. So, because I'd be making more money. Anyway, the fabulous Moolah, she was a legend in pro wrestling for how many years? Trained all those good girls, Judy Martin, Leilani Kai, they all come out of there. So she couldn't have been a bad teacher, and they certainly learned the business because Moolah would make them slave drivers. But anyway, that was Lillian Ellison. That was the fabulous Moolah. I called her Moolah. So anyway, just a story about Moolah.
Need some questions, people. Taking super chats in here today too. Don't forget those.
Shit, I'm trying to be on fire, but
Rip, what do you think about DDP working with Lex Luger, helping him walk again? Didn't we talk about that last week? I think, didn't we?
yeah, we did. Well, DDP, he's always trying to help people. Now, me, since I'm a wrestling guy, I'm thinking about, no, he's just going to turn heel or something like that, or he's just ribbing them or working them. But from what I've seen from Diamond Dallas Page for all these years, he really is a nice guy. He really tries to help people, and he really cares about people. He's not like me at all, which is a plus. But I'd say him trying to help Lex Luger, that's great.
I've got a little insight on old DDP.
Okay.
Little birdie told me that if it's not going to make him some cashola in the process, he's not too interested.
Well, I have no idea about that. I just know what I see on the internet and, see pictures of and stuff. And I guess if you do some freebies, you're going to get your name out there, and then maybe you can make some money. But whatever it is, Dallas has been very successful at what he does, and he's an icon in this business.
What was Paul Christie's role at ICW?
Paul Christie's, well, what happened was I left ICW, everybody else left, and then Randy got to run in WWF. Lanny got to run in WWF. So basically, Paul Christie bought the rights to it or whatever he bought, and he ran some shows. But the good thing about Paul Christie is he was a star for Dick the Bruiser when I was growing up. And he was actually the guy that gave me Randy Savage's phone number. So that in 1978, when I was working for Dick the Bruiser, I called Randy up and sight unseen because Paul Christie recommended me, even though I was the shits. He recommended Randy give me a job. So Randy gave me a job sight unseen, and I got to work the Maritimes, hang out with Randy Savage, and then Randy got me booked. I don't know how many different places. Lanny got me booked in Portland, and I was business partners with him, but it never would have happened. I'd been the ultimate world's worst wrestler in shitology if I wouldn't have gotten Paul Christie. Well, if Paul wouldn't have given me Randy Savage's phone number. So because of Paul Christie, that really started me being a real pro wrestler, getting out to do the territories, working nationwide, then working worldwide, and it's all because of Paul Christie.
Patrick Young, who sent us $10, said earlier, what was your least favorite thing about being a coach?
Coach, times change, and I knew to make it in WWE, you had to look good. You had to know all your basics. You had to be able to cut promos. You needed to be so overqualified than the normal guys off the street. So we concentrated on basics, and more basics. And almost everybody that come out of the class, they could work an hour Broadway called in the ring. And when we would run spot shows, I'd change the names around or throw different people out there so that anybody that did any, prearranged bullshit lined up their spots with their opponent, I'd be sending different opponents out there. And I'd tell the referee, I'd tell the other guy, the guy that was the heel, you're the baby face now. So guys, pretty soon they just relaxed, had a good time, and they learned to call it in the ring. Because if you can call it in the ring, you can save matches. If you can call it in the ring, highlighting you're at this where the most guys are like this. So if you can learn to call it in the ring, which hardly anybody knows how to do anymore, you're like a wrestling god. I've had a couple guys go over 2-hour matches. That's like having matches with guys. We had a body guy had a match with somebody and we played it. And I said, what was different with that? They didn't even know it. Nobody took a bump. Nobody left their whole feet, and nobody in the class even taught it. So there's this things. And then I was hard as hell on the guys and the girls, because just think, in the wrestling business, if you're a black guy, your competition is other black guys. If you're a white meat baby face, if you're a bleach blonde, if you're a Paki Indian, if you're an Afro-American, if you're a Hispanic, if you're a German, if you're a giant, if you're a shorter guy, if you're a skinny guy, if you're a fat guy, they only keep, that's the total buffet of wrestling. We don't want 10 high spot guys. We don't want 6 bleach blonde guys in a row. We don't want 6 guys doing the same old stuff. We want the total buffet of wrestling, and that's what I would try and teach them. And I'd try and teach them that guys are going to be knocking you, and a lot of veterans, if you're a threat to them, they're going to be giving you bad advice, but you don't even know it. But when you're you got about a 1 chance of 10,000 to make it in the wrestling business anyway. The best thing you can do is be related to somebody. Be a second generation, a third generation you're in, because guys will take it easy on you because they know your grandpa, your dad, or whatever. But anyway, you're trying to get there.
You didn't answer the question at all.
Okay.
The question was, what is your least favorite thing about being a coach?
Oh, okay.
You went on a 5-minute deal and didn't answer the question.
I really liked everything about it. I like yelling at guys.
You hated having a boss. You hated.
Oh, but okay. Now, when I didn't have a boss.
Well,
nobody. Okay.
Who fired you then?
Oh, I got fired over the phone.
Okay, but you had a boss. If you got fired, you had a boss.
Yeah, I got fired over the phone, and nobody.
If you didn't have a boss, you couldn't get fired.
Yeah. When Dr. Tom, he said we were like putting all these guys out, and they had this much expectation, but we give them this much. They said they couldn't believe how good the guys was, how many guys that got WWE contracts. But what did I hate? I loved the wrestling, but I didn't like being told what to do. I guess that's like everybody else, because nobody had the experience that I did at the time. And I learned it by failure at everything, because I was the world's worst. But eventually you become one of the best by being obsessed with this shit. And let's just face it, I was obsessed with the shit.
$1.99 super chat. Cold-blooded. Favorite steakhouse in Lexington?
Wow, famous steakhouse in Lexington.
Favorite?
I can't even think of going to a steakhouse in Lexington.
Where did you eat in Lexington when you lived there? Do you remember?
Usually went to Subway every day.
Back then, they had Subway in the 80s?
Yeah.
They did? I've never heard of one.
Well, I guess in Lexington, it's a bigger market. You probably didn't come to Seymour till whenever it was. I really can't remember where I ate. Usually it was all fast food stuff, trying to half-ass stay healthy. Then I get the chicken breast, and I would get 2 apples, 2 oranges, 2 peaches, 2 pears. Then I would eat the baked potatoes too. Then I always had the pound of turkey breast sliced thin. Then I go to Kroger, get the pound of chicken breasts. So when I was wrestling every day, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I was taking it with me. So I was doing the prepackaged meals, but they weren't prepackaged. It was just in my gym bag.
Who were you more impressed by, Randy Orton or Brock Lesnar? Italian wants to know.
Well, as far as a physical freak, oh my God, Brock Lesnar was the most dominating guy I'd ever seen in the world of professional wrestling. And here was Randy Orton. He wasn't second generation. He was third generation wrestler. And Randy had already been AWOL from the Army or whatever it was. And he'd have been around wrestlers his whole life. So Randy Orton would just shake his head. He was so far ahead of guys mentally because, hell, he was the great Bob Orton Jr.'s son. And hell, I wrestled his grandpa and was partners with his dad sometimes. So Randy Orton, he was head and shoulders above everybody. And he was good at he'd just roll his eyes because he had to hear me do this and do that and yell at people and stuff. And he'd just shake his head and laugh because he was so far ahead of everybody from the environment of growing up of dad and grandfather being in the wrestling business and hanging around stars growing up his whole life. God, can you imagine that being a kid growing up like that? It wouldn't get any better than that.
Did you ever get humbled in the Cobra Clutch?
In the Cobra Clutch? No. I gave the Cobra Clutch sometimes as a rib. Of course, we would have, in some spot shows, we would do imitate your favorite wrestler. So I'd be the Iron Sheik and I'd I put you in, I stretch your ass, jabroni, and put you in and boom. Then you reverse it and put it on me, but I get my foot on the rope and have to break it or whatever.
Did you ever try swinging in the Persian clubs?
No, because no, I watched the Sheik do that with a lot of guys. Now Mark Henry, he could do it, but Sheiky baby was Sheiky was such a good wrestler. He was an assistant wrestling coach for the United States Olympic team. That's how good the Iron Sheik was. And he was stronger than hell. And you couldn't do those clubs like Sheiky baby because you have to start out with little ones and then get stronger and stronger and stronger, like the kettlebells and stuff like that. But the Sheik, he was a freak on that. And when he saw Mark Henry do it, he goes, now I'm jabroni. But Sheik was a funny guy.
Ever meet Bobby Heenan?
Oh my God. I love Bobby Heenan. In my opinion, the greatest manager of all time. And when he worked, he was a better wrestler than most all the wrestlers. And whenever Dick the Bruiser hit him, Heenan got juice. Heenan bled. He could flip like a fish. He took the greatest bumps where he could look uncoordinated. I think Bobby Heenan is one of the greatest performers in the world of professional wrestling that I'd ever seen. And as a kid, it was just, I remember I was a fan. I had a couple matches, but I would still go to Dick the Bruiser's matches and I'd watch the matches. All of a sudden, somebody come in the back door and he come up by the fence. And all of a sudden, everybody's standing and booing. What happened? Bobby Heenan come back to town. But Bobby Heenan hadn't been on TV in Indianapolis in years and years because after he went to Indianapolis, and he was a star for Vern Gagne. He was a star in Atlanta. And this was before he was a star for WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it. But he was the greatest manager, the greatest performer I'd ever seen. And when he'd talk to me, he'd tell me how good I was doing, and I was just in heaven because the great Bobby Heenan was telling me that I did a good job and he liked my attitude. So to me, it didn't get any better than that.
Hey, we got a $5 super sticker question from Chuck Scum. Might be a new listener. I don't-
Chuck Scum?
Yeah, you know him?
No, must be. Is that Scumbag's brother? Or?
I wouldn't say anything bad about him, Rip. He's paying $5.
well, what's the question then? We'll try.
In their primes, who would win a tag match between Al Tomko and George Gulas versus Von Lilas and Smasher Stevens?
Oh, and Masher Stevens.
Enjoy a Polar Pop on me. So
Holy.
now you know,
shit.
Chuck, Polar Pop might be a clue.
No, I don't. Not with the real name or whatever. But Masher Stevens, he was classic because I don't think he was ever smartened up. And a couple times I went to Masher Stevens. He had a ring in Indianapolis down to Michigan Street or whatever. And he actually had a ring in there upstairs. And I got in there a couple times. But when I went to but Masher was like a teacher, but he didn't know anything. I said, "Oh my God, he don't know anything." So I met a couple guys there. One of them was Bobo Murdoch. That's where I met Steve Cooper. And these guys ended up being pro wrestlers and stuff. And in ICW, we used to use Masher Stevens because he'd bring the midgets from Indianapolis, and we could use them. Or he'd come in and we'd use Masher for the week with the midgets. So he'd drive the midgets down. He'd take them to the town, and he'd drive them back. And he was happy because he was just because he was in the wrestling business.
You didn't answer the question.
What was the question?
Who would win a match between Al Tomko and George Gulas versus
Al-
Von Lilas and Master Stevens?
Al Tomko and George Gulas. Okay. We know George is sort of like the world's worst wrestler I've ever seen in my life. And Al Tomko, yeah, well, see, Al Tomko, he bought the Vancouver territory after Gene Kaniski got out of it. And Al Tomko, as Buddy Wayne would say, midget Buddy Wayne, he said he's a hell of a rib. So against Von Lilas, and who was your partner?
Masher Stevens.
And Masher. Well, if you stayed in the whole, as soon as you tag Masher in, George Gulas, I think, would have dominated. And I think even Al Tomko would dominate too. So you're the key to all of this. That's all there is to it.
Answer the question. They paid $5.
Okay, Von Lilas over then. He's just going to chop them all to death. Oh God, you could match those chops with George, and because you had hit him and shot. Oh my God, George didn't like getting chopped. Daddy said, "Don't hurt me."
Shane Parks wants to know my first match. I don't know. I wrestled in like 3 battle royals, and then I wrestled in a 6-man. It was me, not Al Tomko, but Travis Tomko, and somebody against Conway, Matt Morgan, and Jindrak. Who was my other partner? I can't remember. I took the big choke slam for Matt Morgan, though. I remember that, and got beat. First singles match was against Nick Dinsmore.
Did you beat Nick Dinsmore?
No.
No. Okay. Can you imagine all the legends that come out of Seymour, Indiana? Von Lilas, John Cougar Mellencamp, Rip Rogers.
We did a whole show on that one, or a whole video on that once.
Yeah, but
like the most famous people.
Yeah, but it didn't matter that or doesn't know matter or don't mean they know that or they've seen it. We got a different audience. We got a worldwide audience.
Tell them to check out our catalog and find that video.
Yeah, check out our catalog and find out that video. Whatever.
The most famous people from Seymour. Tell them. No.
The most famous people in Seymour, Indiana. Check out our catalog. John Cougar Mellencamp, who's on the football team with me at Seymour High School, who's in my sister's graduating class in 1970. The man who put Seymour, Indiana on the map. Rip Rogers follows up, and then Von Lilas comes in, and he gets in the wrestling business because his dad helped promote. His sister was a leading scorer in Butler University history. Still is. Von Lilas was about 6'5.5". He says he was 6'5". I think he was a half, but I think he might have had the gimmick lifters on. But we got all these stars, all these nationwide stars, all these worldwide stars coming from little Seymour, Indiana.
The The most famous is probably Rob Weedoff, who was he's got almost I think he's getting close to 1 million followers on TikTok. John Marston, he was in what's that Red Dead Redemption video game? He was the voice of John Marston.
Oh,
he's way over.
Okay, well, if he's over then let's put him over. I've never been on a video game before, so I wouldn't know. I didn't know who the voiceovers were anyway. So
any more questions? We need a couple more before we go. It's 1:15. A couple more super chats in here before we get off here. Did you work with Big Daddy Siki, Rip?
Sweet Daddy Siki? No, I didn't work with Sweet Daddy Siki, but he was Toronto. He was one of the guys. He was like the one at one time. He was one of the he would play the guitar, sing, etc. And like I said, he was from Toronto, and he would go worldwide over, and that was Sweet Daddy Siki. Sweet Daddy Siki from Toronto. I think the sensational and intelligent mass thunderbolt, Ron Hutchison, I think Siki trained him.
Frank wants to know if Seymour had daytime hookers.
I can't remember any, but I wasn't really hanging out looking for them. They might have been incognito hookers, but man, I should have looked into that when I was younger. I didn't have much money, but I had 2 paper routes. I could have got my cherry busted probably when I was like 12 and 13 instead of waiting all those years of waiting until I was 57. So anyway, hookers in Seymour, Indiana, I don't think so. I think if they did, they kayfabed it pretty good.
Keeps asking me questions. I'm not wanting to talk today. Rip, did you ever work Kevin Sullivan?
I was on cards. I've been in the car with him, etc. But we were always bad guys. The thing about Kevin Sullivan was when he was working for Memphis, and me and Randy Savage saw him on television just shredded, and it showed him in physique contests. That's when Randy said, "That's what we're going to do. We're going to get in contests." So what we do? Well, we started training, we started eating right, and we got in contests. But without us watching Jarrett's, and then when I was in physique contests, which I got in 12 contests in 18 months, which is impossible, and won 2 clean, and then met Lou Ferrigno and met Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then actually we had more people at our 2 Mr. Kentuckys in Lexington that ICW helped sponsor. We had more people than was in the Mr. Olympias in those years. But that's where I got to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's where I got to meet the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, and whatever the question was, I can't remember.
Did you have hookers in Seymour?
Okay. All right. Well, at least you got a little.
It's the last question.
Okay. Yeah. No, we didn't have. I didn't know if we had any.
Big George did a big $19.99 super sticker.
Oh shit! It don't get any better than that.
Thanks, George. If I can get it pulled up here. You're the man, George. $19.99 super sticker. Rip, did you ever bang a rat during a wrestling event you were in? I don't know what that means exactly, but
it's like if did I go outside and do all that stuff? Yes. Before the matches? Yes. During the matches? Yes. After the matches? Yes. In transition where they're driving me and I'm with them? Yes. Every evil thing as far as sexual innuendos with rats, whatever, guilty as charged. Yes. No big druggies, no smoking cigarettes. I would put a cigar in my mouth, but I didn't have, but it wasn't lit. Because I always thought they smelled pretty good, but then I put it in my mouth. But no chew, none of that either.
Vito in green wants to know your thoughts on arm wrestling. The great Gene Sartini.
Trying to think who Gene Sartini was.
He was the Providence football coach.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. See, you remembered it. I didn't.
I mean, I hear these stories a lot. You always tell me the stories like,
yeah,
I asked the question, but really I've heard these stories
about
50 times.
Gene Sartini.
So you don't need to keep telling me.
Yeah, that's right. Well,
matter of fact, I usually know what words come out of your mouth exactly.
That was Nick Dinsmore's football coach.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I actually arm wrestled Gene Sartini, and he beat me. I think I had a bad day. I think my right arm, my cranial process of my elbow was sort of fractured, and it never did heal up. I think this injury I got right here where I can touch this shoulder here and I can't touch this one here. And I think that was the damage done by Providence High School's football coach, Gene Sartini, who coached Nick Dinsmore at Providence High School in Clarksville, Indiana, New Albany, and right across the river there. But it was all Gene Sartini's fault. He scarred me for life. He's made me like, I can't even do that, and that ain't right. But only, God, Gene Sartini.
You want to preface whatever Bobby Fulton's video that we're showing? Before I show it, like.
Okay, Bobby Fulton's he's got the big show. Today is Thursday, so it's Saturday night. That's right, Saturday night in Chillicothe. He's got a big super show with wrestling, all the autographs, the fan fest, etc., like that. It's going to be pretty much all day Saturday. A lot of people there. I think we got a promo on it. Bobby talking about it. If we do, we do. If we can't,
do.
Okay, then let's pull that thing up.
He's a little hard to understand because he has had throat cancer, right? Throat cancer.
Yeah. But this is all happening.
Hey, wrestling fans, this is Bobby Fulton of the tag team, the Fantastics, reminding all of you viewers and listeners of the Rip Rogers podcast about Saturday, March the 8th, right here in Chillicothe, Ohio, at the OVC Shoemaker Center for world-class professional big-time wrestling, the reboot. You're going to see such stars as Mick Foley, Humpy Tonk Man, Vampiro, Enzo, the real one, Heath Slater, Big Con from the Ascension, also Bagwell, franchise Shane Douglas, Pitbull, Jerry Wolf, myself and Wildcat Chris Harris, and many others, including UFC's Mark Coleman. That's Saturday, March 8th, right here in Chillicothe, Ohio. In addition, you'll see the women wrestling stars in action. You'll see the micro stars in action. And I can't wait to see you all there. Saturday, March 8th, Chillicothe, Ohio will be there.
Wow. What a promo. Sounded like Nick Gulish years ago, but that's this Saturday. That's right. This Saturday night, the Super Spectacular, the Super Fan Fest in Chillicothe, Ohio, brought to you by Bobby Foley. And basically, Mick Foley will be there. A lot of big names will be there. Go ahead and go there, and you'll have a great time. And don't get any better than that going to one of Bobby Fulton's big-time wrestling shows. Chillicothe, Ohio, this Saturday night. Chillicothe, Ohio, this Saturday night.
I'm going to give a shout out to my Uncle Brian Brock back there in the red shirt. He was the Superstar Wrestling security guard back in the day for there's Dutch Mantell and Barry Horowitz. That's my Uncle Brian Brock. He just passed away this last week, right there in the middle, from Seymour, Indiana himself. Rip used to date his wife as well. We won't mention that, though. So I'm going to be that's why we had to move this up. I'll be at that funeral tomorrow. So a big shout out to the Brock brothers, Aunt Carol Brock, and R.I.P. Brian Brock from the big town of Seymour, Indiana. And a bodyguard, Rip. You knew Brian a little bit, didn't you?
Yeah. He hung out with my brother Greg because they was on the same class. Mrs. Brock, Brian, and my brother Greg Shira.
All right. I think this show has come to an end. Thanks for all the super chats out there. Big George, Vito becoming a member and super chats. More George, John Tucker in green and super chats. Frank Pickle Barrel Ass with a big one for a hooker and Taco Bell. Cold-blooded in the house today. Chuck Scum in the house. The Big George finished off with a big $20 deal. And Patrick also came through with the Cash App gimmick. So that was cool too. Patrick Young sending it $10 through the Cash App. So appreciate that. Rip, I don't know if you know this or not, but the big Outrunners match is Sunday. Big pay-per-view. Outrunners headlining. Well, I don't know if they're headlining, but we'll say they're headlining the pay-per-view Sunday to win those tag titles. That's pretty cool. And then let's also not forget one last time here. I'm sure Tony's watching today. Give a plug there, Rip.
Tony Khan, AEW. Call me. I need a job. There's my phone number, Rip Rogers. I also got, you can't see that on there.
There you can.
But here, what I put, will work for food, expensive food, but a lot of dinners and whatever. But anyway, Tony Khan, I'm waiting for Tony Khan to contact me, baby. It don't get any better than that. Just think the Outrunners. It was an OVW.
World champs.
Just think.
OVW, hell, I beat him up at the pizza place. That's what I think about.
Shelton Benjamin, OVW.
Bobby Lashley.
OVW.
All over OVW.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Big gold and a bill.
Right, we are out of here.
So swole that I can't get the shit closed.
This is the greatest.
So